A breakup can be an incredibly painful experience, there's no denying that. Just last month, I received multiple requests for a video on this topic. I believe philosophy has a lot to offer when it comes to easing the emotional toll of a breakup. That's why I've decided to create a series exploring different philosophical perspectives on recovering from heartbreak. To kick things off, let's take a look at Stoicism. The way we view love and relationships has evolved significantly over time. In ancient Greece, for example, the idea of dating as we know it today likely didn't exist. However, at its core, human emotions like desire, attachment, longing, and anger remain universal and timeless. Unlike people, nature operates on its own vast timeline, meaning that while society has advanced rapidly, our biological makeup is still quite similar to what it was 2,500 years ago. This is why an ancient school of thought like Stoicism continues to be relevant. Although modern science has given us deeper insights into how the brain functions, it doesn't diminish the value of Stoic teachings in helping us manage emotional struggles. With that in mind, it's important to analyze what actually happens when we go through a breakup and why it affects us so deeply. Falling in love is an intense experience. Our bodies release chemicals that create a sense of euphoria, making the person we're infatuated with the center of our world. To a large extent, this reaction is biological, designed to foster connection and reproduction. However, as the initial excitement, the so-called honeymoon phase, fades, those heightened emotions naturally begin to settle, and we start to see our partner more realistically rather than through an idealized lens. So, in essence, love creates a temporary high. But even after that initial rush fades, a deep emotional attachment often remains. Is this attachment inherently wrong? Not necessarily, it's a natural part of being human. Once we develop strong feelings for someone, they don't just disappear overnight. However, what we can control is how we approach this attachment and how we handle being separated from the person we've bonded with. This is where the power of reason comes into play, something the Stoics mastered. While we can't simply wish the pain away, we can shift our perspective by challenging false beliefs, which helps us accept reality and find peace in the breakup. Let's explore a few of these common misconceptions and what Stoicism teaches about them. I need that person to be happy. One of the biggest traps people fall into after a breakup is believing that they need a particular person in order to be happy. This often leads to clingy behavior and an overwhelming sense of loss. A common response to this is, there are plenty of fish in the sea, which, while true, doesn't actually solve the problem. The issue isn't about whether there are other options, the problem is external dependence. Even if the world is full of potential partners, that doesn't guarantee we'll end up with one. And if our happiness relies on external circumstances, things we can't control, then we set ourselves up for suffering. Stoicism challenges this mindset by asserting that happiness doesn't come from external things, including relationships, but from within. According to the Stoics, virtue is the only true requirement for happiness, and living a virtuous life is entirely within our control. Love, marriage, and even family life are considered preferred indifference. They might enhance life, but they are not essential for a fulfilling existence. Relying on them for happiness is risky because they are ultimately beyond our control. I'm entitled to that person. This belief often triggers feelings of resentment and frustration after a breakup. Many people feel they deserve to be with their ex, that the relationship should have worked out because of everything they invested in it. However, Stoicism teaches that entitlement is an illusion. Nothing external truly belongs to us, including other people. Accepting this truth can be difficult, but it's a necessary step toward emotional freedom. Sometimes, we start viewing the person we love as something we own or, at the very least, as someone we have a right to keep in our lives. This sense of entitlement is often linked to jealousy, which at its core is simply the fear of losing what we value. When a breakup happens, especially if it wasn't our choice, we may feel like we've been treated unfairly, as if the end of the relationship was some kind of betrayal. This feeling can be particularly intense in the case of divorce, where vows of lifelong commitment were made, or in situations involving infidelity, where trust is broken. However, concepts like monogamy and exclusive relationships haven't always been universal. They are social constructs, influenced by cultural and religious traditions. Because we grow up within these frameworks, they shape our expectations and, in turn, our fears. In today's world, where dating apps, casual relationships, and shifting attitudes toward marriage are more prevalent, breakups and infidelity have become increasingly common. This means that heartbreak is something many people will experience, making it even more important to develop a resilient mindset. Accepting loss, a Stoic perspective. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic philosophers, offered profound insight into dealing with loss. He taught that instead of saying we have lost something, we should see it as having been returned. He put it this way: never say of anything, I have lost it, but instead, I have returned it. Is your child dead? It is returned. Is your wife dead? She is returned. Has your estate been taken away? That too is returned. But the one who took it is unjust. What does it matter to you who the giver assigns to take it back? While you have it, take care of it, but never see it as your own, just as a traveler does not claim a hotel as his home. This perspective shifts our focus from ownership to acceptance. Nothing truly belongs to us, not people, not possessions, not even our circumstances. Everything is temporary, and when we accept that reality, we free ourselves from unnecessary suffering. I'll never get over this person. The pain of a breakup can feel overwhelming, making it seem as if we'll never move on. But the truth is, time does heal. Even if it doesn't erase the past, it changes how we perceive it. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic philosopher and Roman emperor, put it beautifully: some things are rushing into existence, others fading out of it. Some of what exists now is already gone. Change and flux constantly reshape the world, just as the unending flow of time remakes eternity. In other words, life is in constant motion. Just as new things emerge, old things fade away, including pain, heartbreak, and the attachments we once thought we could never let go of. Accepting change as a fundamental part of life is key to moving forward. Pain is something we have to work with, not fight against. Resisting it only intensifies our suffering. Instead, it's better to acknowledge its presence and allow ourselves to process it. Unfortunately, many people turn to unhealthy coping mechanisms. I used to do the same, drinking heavily and using other mind-altering substances as a way to numb the pain. But these quick fixes never provide real healing. Another mistake I made was isolating myself completely after a breakup. While some solitude can be beneficial, withdrawing from the world entirely isn't a sustainable solution. From my experience, the best way to handle grief is through a balance, engaging with life while also taking moments to sit with our emotions. The latter is crucial because it allows us to fully embrace our reality and endure the painful detachment process, which can take months or even years. Rather than seeking an escape, we must learn to endure. To understand how the Stoics approached the immediate grief that follows an unfortunate event, we can look to Seneca. Seneca was not just a Stoic philosopher, he was also a prominent political figure in the Roman Empire. His life took a dramatic turn when he was accused of adultery with the emperor's sister and subsequently exiled to Corsica. While in exile, he wrote a letter to his mother, comforting her as she mourned his absence. He shared this wisdom: I knew that I must not oppose your grief during its first transports, lest my very attempts at consolation might irritate it and add fuel to it, for in diseases, also, there is nothing more hurtful than medicine applied too soon. I waited, therefore, until it exhausted itself by its own violence, and being weakened by time, so that it was able to bear remedies, would allow itself to be handled and touched. In simple terms, let yourself grieve. Allow the emotions to flow freely. Be human first. And once the initial shock subsides, then we can turn to Stoic philosophy, not as an instant cure, but as a guiding principle to help us heal. Thank you for watching.